Good morning everyone. Talabasa natin ang ating libro guys. Kapwa ko Filipino, magbasa tayo natin sariling history. History of the Filipino People by Agoncillo and Guerrero. Today is 28 February 2023. History of the Filipino People Part 5, The Warriors. Topic number 23 na tayo. Deliberation. 23 Deliberation. The 3 years of Japanese occupation were also years of resistance movement. Even before the Japanese entry into Manila, guerrilla units had already been formed in anticipation of what was then believed as the short stay of the enemy in the Philippines. When Bayan and Corregidor fell, quite a number of Filipino and American officers and soldiers succeeded in escaping to the mountains and there directed the underground movement. Sabotage on large and small scale aimed at paralyzing the Japanese war efforts was conducted. Reports of enemy movements, losses, strength, and disposition of troops were sent to MacArthur's headquarters in Australia. These reports helped MacArthur immensely in planning his return to the Philippines. He knew exactly where to land and what to expect from the enemy. The long wait ended when the American forces hit the beach of Leyte in October 1944, and other landings were made in Mindoro, Batangas, and Lingayen in subsequent months. On February 3, 1945, elements of the American Army entered Manila. Foresight of the enemy followed. On August 15, Japan surrendered, and on September 2, the terms of surrender were signed on the battleship Missouri at Tokyo Bay. The war in the Pacific was over. Guerrilla Warfare. The day following the enemy occupation of Manila, the commander-in-chief of the Japanese Army warned the Filipinos against offering resistance or committing hostile acts against the Japanese forces in any manner. Any such act on the part of the Filipinos would lead to the destruction of the Philippines. The Japanese proclamation threatened with death those who would disturb the minds of the officials and the people. The severity of the proclamation called majority of the Filipinos into silence. Those who refused to place themselves under the authority of the Japanese military administration fled to the mountains to join the guerrillas. The Japanese threat of death to those who refused to cooperate with them was obviously a reaction to the well-known Filipino-American Democratic Partnership. The Japanese knew that the Filipinos loved the Americans, and the announcement that the Filipinos would be allowed to develop their culture and that the Philippines was for the Filipinos was a part of the Japanese gamble to alienate the former's affection from the Americans. But the ways of the Japanese military neutralized their propaganda line of making the Philippines an important part of the greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. This explains why a great majority of the Filipinos turned guerrillas and potential guerrillas. With the retreat of the USAFFE to Bataan, the officer, ang USAFFE guys is United States. Nakalimutan ko na. Basta yung yan Army of the Balikan natin yung nakaraan natin. Yung meaning ng USAFFE. Mamaya. Sa dictionary, balikan ko. Okay. With the retreat of the USAFFE to Bataan, basta army yan guys, pinagsama yan ng army ng Filipino tsaka American dito sa Far East. With the retreat of the USAFFE to Bataan, the officers and soldiers who were isolated by the rapid advance of the enemy organized guerrilla units. In the north, Walter M. Cushing formed a guerrilla outfit consisting of the 121st Infantry. Colonel Guillermo Nacar commanded the 14th Infantry, and Colonel Parker Calvert, the 43rd Infantry. By July 1942, the North Luzon guerrilla units were tightly knit, and by September, active resistance movement commenced. Cushing's underground activities came to an end when, on September 19, 1942, while in Jones, Isabela, with 3 Filipino soldiers on a mission to contact a large guerrilla outfit, he and his men were fired upon by Japanese soldiers. Cushing and 2 of his men died on the spot. Cushing and his band had killed 500 enemy soldiers along the coast of Ilocos before his death. The death of Cushing did not dampen the enthusiasm of the Northern Luzon guerrillas. Governor Roque Ablan of Ilocos Norte refused to surrender to the enemy and withdrew to the mountains, where he organized his own guerrilla unit. Captain Praeger commanded the sector between Apayao and Cagayan, while Lieutenant Rufino Balduin led the underground movement in Benguet. Along the mountain trail in and about Baguio, Bado Dangwa led his resistance fighters against the Japanese. Eventually, the North Luzon guerrillas were consolidated under the overall command of Colonel Russell W. Bachman. However, other guerrilla units under separate commands mushroomed, principally Lapham's Guerrillas, Ramsey's Guerrillas, Anderson's Guerrillas, and Colonel Claude Torpes Guerrilla Organization in Pangasinan and Nueva Ecija. In Central Luzon, the guerrillas flocked under the banner of several leaders, some of whom were civilians. In and around Manila, Miguel Ver and late latter Eleuterio Adiboso, Lady Hunters ROTC guerrillas, and Marcos Agustin, assisted by Yay Panlilio, Lady Markings guerrillas. Guys, medyo mabagal ako kasi mga pangalan na yan eh. In Tarlac, Pampanga, Bulacan, and Nueva Ecija, the dominant guerrilla outfit was the HUKBALAHAP, Hukbo ng Bayan laban sa Hapon. Yun pala yun, HUKBALAHAP. Hukbo ng Bayan laban sa Hapon, led by Luis Tarok. Anderson's guerrilla also operated. Famous itong Luis Tarok. Siya pala yung ng HUKBALAHAP. Led by Luis Tarok, Anderson's guerrilla also operated around Manila and Southern Luzon. The PQOG, President Quezon's own guerrillas. Naku, ang dami natin susulat mamaya sa dictionary. Isulat ko ulit yung USAFFE, hanapin ko yung yung pangalan. Tapos ito naman, PQOG, President Quezon's own guerrillas, operated in Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, and Quezon, while in the Bicol region, former Assemblyman and Governor Wenceslao Q. Vinsons headed the guerrilla outfit. In the Visayas, the most prominent guerrilla leaders were Colonel Roberto Canglion, who operated in Samar, and Leyte Colonel Macario Peralta of Tarlac led the Panay guerrillas, with Governor Tomas Confesor as the civilian leader. In Mindanao, the guerrillas were headed by Tomas Cabili, Wendell Fertig, and Salipada Pendatun. Jesuit priest in Mindanao, Fathers Edward Hagarte, John Pollock, Clement Crisacher, Harold Murphy, and others. Tapos na yung heater natin. Ulitin ko guys kaya nga ako naka-headband off. Pagka gusto nyo matanggal yung lamig guys, pati tainga pagtakpan nyo. Ayan, multi-purpose yung headband ko. Pantanggal ng lamig. Maganda kasi yung parang iniipit yung ulo mo. Yung masikip na ayan, katulad yan, may headband tayo, masikip yung pakaramdam mo, nakakatanggal siya ng lamig. Tapos, ito pa. Ulitin ko na lang. In Mindanao, the guerrillas were headed by Tomas Cabili, Wendell Fertig, and Salipada Pindatun. Jesuit priest in Mindanao, Fathers Edward Hagarte, John Pollock, Clement Researcher, Harold Morphy, and others, did much to alleviate the condition of the people suffering from the effects of the war. They suffered with them and consoled them in the darkest hour when hope was all but extinguished. To these guerrilla padres, no less than to the leaders of the armed units, belonged the distinction of having kept alive the spirit of the resistance to the enemy at a time when all seemed lost. The history of the resistance movement in the Philippines would fill several huge volumes. What they did to keep alive faith in the democratic way of life is a story that is as touching as it is dramatic. Yet in keeping alive that faith in freedom and democracy, some of the guerrillas committed atrocious crimes which, under the circumstances, can be forgiven, for in a tumultuous and abnormal period, there is hardly time to rationalize and to think clearly. Passion rules the moment and reason is pushed into the background. Thus, at such a period, it is difficult for men to behave like human beings. The matter of life and death is too urgent for a person to behave and stay like one. The guerrillas performed three important functions: to ambush the otherwise skilled enemy, soldiers, and civilians; to relay important intelligence reports to MacArthur in Australia, such as size of the enemy army, troop movements, number of Japanese ships, disposition of troops, activities of the Japanese military administration, and other information necessary to gauge the strength and weakness of the enemy and to liquidate the spies and Japanese sympathizers. Many guerrillas met death in the performance of their duties, but those left behind carried on as if nothing happened. There was only one thought uppermost in their minds, and it was to help drive away the invaders from Philippine soil. Bukas na itong guerrilla newspapers. For March na tayo, bukas na. March 01, 2023. Hanggang 28 lang ba ang February? Check ko lang. Ay, huwag na. Tingnan ko lang sandali yung ano ha. May oras pa naman ako eh. Hanapin ko lang yung USAFFE. USAFFE. Okay. USAFFE. Hindi ko kasi maano kanina eh. Yan. United States Army Forces Far East. Ayun. Hindi matahimik agad di makita eh. Bye everyone. God bless.